James Donovan, though, there is a need to realign or align investment to the needs of cities. If you're looking for funding, what needs to have been sorted out, though, in terms of policy, in terms of the legal structures, in terms of aligning these interests? What needs to have been sorted out?
First of all, thank you for having me. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. ADEC Innovations is been in the business of working with PPPs or BOTs for the past 30 years. What we see is providing more data, more information to the investors to help round out the value proposition. Having clear policies, as it was stated, as far as how investments come in, how they go out. I would have to say that in the past, the PPP models have not been successfully engaging civil society as well as they could, and we really need to address the model so that we can deploy more capital, which is desperately needed. We come from the Philippines, so from a traffic perspective, I feel very much at home here in Nairobi. We have 13 million and it expands up to 15 million during the workday, and they're all on the road whenever you're trying to go somewhere. So we absolutely understand planning is needed, better policies, a new approach towards creating value propositions of delivering public-private partnerships, where we believe by providing better data that can monitor an ongoing project, give visibility to civil society, because often projects are brought by a proponent to a city, it all sounds good, it gets deployed, and then there's an unfortunate sort of cascading of misinformation often about how the project and the value that's being brought to people. We need to remove those stumbling blocks. We need to engage civil society and bring them inside to all the points of actually monitoring and providing the due diligence and being involved in public-private partnerships. We believe this will truly bring and unlock more investment for urban investments. Thank you.
Well, I just want to engage you for a little bit further, James, there, because you talked about the PPP models.
Yes.
Are there examples from perhaps the Philippines or elsewhere? Are there examples of successful PPPs?
Yes, as many successes, there has also been shortcomings. We were just involved in one that deployed 10,000 school rooms, which was broken up into packages and then delivered. At some point, there are services that the private sector might be able to deliver better, and then frankly, at some point, the government can. This was a circumstance that private sector could actually deliver it. So this was not a pure PPP per se, but more of a hybrid. And what we're seeing is PPPs are being brought into education, into health, into areas that they traditionally never touched. So we absolutely have to sort of expand our thinking about how to apply this business model to deploy the capital needed to solve the problem.
But though two issues have come up here, transparency and uncertainty and attracting investors regardless of when there is no clear policy. So the question is, how do you provide though the confidence to investors that the challenges that are on the ground are being met and are being well managed? And thoughts on what you were going to say.
Thank you. Actually, in support, a lot of these projects are enabled by data. If you want to have investors, you want to have municipal bonds, you want to support real estate investment trusts, you really have to have a strong data. In addition to urban planning, I would suggest that we need to have a technology roadmap, a planning to be able to roll out technology that will provide a disruption for how services are currently being delivered as business as usual, but start to empower more e-governance, more open access to data, the capability for businesses to really start to build their own business models and truly see the value proposition that's being offered by government. The nexus of policymakers and civil society, we believe that visible data visibility will will really provide that capability. So without a technology, I mean, we're just not going to jump from where we are today to some magical place where all technology is going to solve our problems. But to truly have a roadmap for the city built next to, in parallel with the urban planning, on how are we going to have e-governance, e-licenses, sort of things that are able people to pay their taxes online. So if you don't have a fixed residency, you can still be part of the system. Is how to use technology to reach out and reach deeper into civil society. I believe that will also really start to bring the public-private partnership and the value propositions much clearer to business. And that's really, business is looking for that clear value proposition of how they're going to execute. The money is absolutely, I think it was a great point coming from the banking industry many years ago. They just have too many regulations today. The private equity side, other funding mechanisms are willing to sit and step into that gap, but they absolutely need very, very clear entry and exit for their capital and the investors that fund private equity.
Let's look at your recommendations, though, to city leaders, to those cities who want to prepare their management to guide private investment for private finance for urban development. What would your recommendation be? James Donovan, your recommendations.
Thank you, Beatrice. The 2030 agenda, the 2030 agenda is nothing short of the world's largest accounting exercise for non-financial attributes. Urban planning is one of these that will benefit by basically building in this blended business model. I absolutely believe that leveraging technology by bringing more ratepayers into the system, showing them how they can get value, basically educating what planetary boundaries really mean, that we have to manage resources in a different way, creating clear value propositions from the private sector side, just being able to bring in, already going through the process of engaging civil society, as it was brought up, people first is actually good business, because if we can bring civil society on board with the value proposition, bringing business and the bankers together, moving forward is actually a lot easier. So I just want to close out that yes, PPP has absolutely been used in the past, but it really needs to be innovated. We need to have an innovation enabling environment. I want to take off from that. Needs to be brought in so that we can mainstream or bring PPP as a model to deploy the billions of dollars that are needed to bring people forward for the 2030 agenda. Thank you.
On this, Russell Curtis, you've now spent about, all of you, 4 days in Nairobi. What are the first 2 things you would address if your job was to plan and finance it? I would say traffic, but let's start with you. Right, James Donovan?
Thank you, Beatrice. I guess first, we've been an impact investor and serial entrepreneur for 20 plus years. 3 years ago, we started an operation here in Kenya. So I guess we're putting our money where our mouth is and have already been seeing the fruits of that operation. We have about 50 staff here, and we look to at least double or triple that in probably the next year. And that's because of our experience we've had in Kenya to find the right resources and be able to start deploying technology. So I guess we're a happy recipient of what Nairobi has. And I guess one of the shortcomings, and we had this in the Philippines 20 years ago, where we did compete a little bit with India, where we were just not on the map. I think Nairobi needs to figure out a way to show what it has. And we had to go through this process to show where the BPO industry was really but a couple $100 million, and 15 years on, it's a $25 billion industry. The Philippines was able to do it. I believe Kenya can follow that same path to be able to show the world its capabilities. And if anything I could point out is it really needs to be able to do that to the broader world, not just within Africa, but what can we do using IT technology and start to get services brought here into Kenya. So that's mine.